I didn't know rookies, but I do have like a slight caveat about it though, is that I think that by the end of the season and perhaps in season, I'm willing to bet that a rookie or two could creep their way into this top 10 list because I do think that we have that good of a rookie class that will be an impact rookie class in their first season. Um, but so I got Derek Brown and JC Horn 1 and 2. What's interesting about that, because I think that most people would have them 1 and 2, right? Like those are your very easy identifiable best players on this roster. But I had a hard time deciding which one I actually wanted to put at 1, to be completely honest. I think that JC Horn is a really good football player, not just quarterback. And I think that if with the scheme adjustments, having Trayvon Merrick in there, that if they are able to use him a little bit more as that blitzer, right? Like getting after the quarterback a little bit more, if they let him roam, if he gets to play a little bit of nickel or something, I think JC could be in for a really big year. And I'm curious to see what Derek Brown comes back at. Percentage wise, his conditioning, is he going to play, the full allotment that we're used to seeing Derek Brown play? But when Derek Brown is healthy, man, he is a top 5 to 6 defensive tackle in the NFL. So he took my number 1 spot, JC at number 2. I got Chuba Hubbard at 3, man. And really, for me, what it came down to is you look at last year and even the year before that, who was the best offensive player on our team? Who is the most consistent? Who is the most reliable? Who is the hardest working? Who is the most productive? And for me, man, unequivocally, that's Chuba Hubbard. And I think that he gets overlooked a little bit sometimes. I think that if he were on the Eagles, right, we saw Saquon Barkley, and I'm not saying that Chuba is Saquon, but if he played behind an offensive line like that and with a dynamic offense with the wide receivers they have and the run game threat of Jalen Hurts, I think he'd have put up massive numbers there too. I got Bryce Young at 4. That was maybe what to me was probably my biggest surprise, was how high I ended up being on Bryce Young again. I just got a feeling, man, he is going to really show out this season. And watching him finish last year, this dude is wildly talented, man. And he just has not had a lot of weapons to throw to. I think the T-Max solves a little bit of that. I expect Xavier Legette to be better in his second year. I also think that Jalen Coker is just going to make some noise. And we still got Adam Thielen, who I'll talk about. Robert Hunt is my first offensive lineman on the list at number 5. It was kind of choice between Robert Hunt and Taylor Moton for me. I really like Taylor Moton, but Taylor Moton isn't so much of a tone setter. I don't think that what he does, and I'm not trying to give him grief because of the fact that he's not more physically imposing and violent with the way that he plays the position. But Robert Hunt, I think, changed the dynamic of the entire offensive line. He may not even have been the best interior offensive lineman every single game last year because Damian Lewis, who's on my list as well, had a great year. But Robert Hunt has been this good for 3 or 4 years. So when I look at it, I'm not just judging off of who had the best year last year, right? Who is the best player coming in? And I think Robert Hunt's going to do much better as a pass blocker. I think having that continuity, having a center continuity could go a long way there too. Because remember, there was a little bit of up and down there with Corbett and then going into Mays. We'll see who wins that job, but that person should hold that job as long as they're healthy. Trayvon Merrick, the newcomer, number 6, I think he's dynamic, man. And I think that he is going to change the way that our defense looks. I think he's going to create turnovers. I think that he is going to create pressure. And those are things that we just have not seen from a Carolina Panthers defense, and I'm excited about his addition. Taylor Moton, the steady vet right there at number 7. I know that he's kind of not necessarily declining in play, but declining in age and a little bit of worries about his health, right? He finally missed a game. You're concerned about his knee, is it going to hold up for the whole season? He's still really damn good at playing football, and he's a reliable right tackle. So I got to have him there in my top 10. Adam Thielen, man. How do you not have Adam Thielen? He's the only wide receiver that has produced on this roster with Bryce Young, with Andy Dalton. Now, I hope that he can stay healthy. And sure, it would be cool, man, if you could tie some jetpacks to his cleats and give him a little bit of speed. But he doesn't need it. He's making people miss. He's getting open. He's catching touchdowns. He's catching first downs. Bryce Young is looking for him. They got a great rapport. He's going to stay on there for me. Damian Lewis, who I talked about. I think he had his best season as a pro last year, guys. I think Damian Lewis literally had his best NFL season in his first year here in Carolina. And I think that's what's so endearing about those interior offensive linemen that we added. Not only did they come in and do exactly what they were supposed to, they got all this money, but they probably played, at least Damian Lewis probably played the best football he's played in a brand new situation with an underperforming team. I love that because now when you get the confidence of the entire locker room, the confidence of the entire roster, the offense having familiarity, watch what these guys do together feeling good. about their prospects playing football. And then Ricky, I rounded – yeah.
Ricky, real quick, can you remember the last time that you could say that a free agent came in and had their best season of their NFL career with the Carolina Panthers?
Absolutely not. You know what you normally hear is that when a Carolina Panther leaves in free agency, they had their best career year at their new team. Like, exactly. it was this weird, bizarro, inverse world, man, and it was wild. And to your point there again, Bryson, when's the last time that I had all of these offensive linemen in a top 10 list for the Carolina Panthers? Because to round mine out, I got Ike Ekwonu there at 10, man. I think that Ike had a really quietly good year. I think that he made some serious progress. We know he's a dominant run blocker, man. Like, I mean, dominant. Like, this is one of the top 5 best run blocking tackles in the league, I think. I think if he can, I don't even know that that's that bold, man. Is it like honestly, dude, this dude is a mover, man. He can grade space. He could get people out of there, but he can also hold his own. He's so athletic that he could get to his landmarks, man. And that's such a key piece on some of these zone runs, getting him to where he's supposed to be in the right amount of time. He's so good at it, man. Now, what I noticed the positivity or like the progression from him as a pass blocker, I think that his brain and his body are starting to move in the same unison. I think they're working together. I don't think he's doing as much guessing. I saw less lunging. Speed can still give him some fits, but there are multiple ways to win a rep. I see a lot of these videos, and you know what? We talk about Jared Feinberg, who is kind of like our inspiration for these lists here. I was having a conversation with him, man, the other day about Ike. There are so many different ways to win reps, and people think that it's all about like a stonewall rep where you win instantly and you hold your guy up or you put him down on the ground. That's not it, man. Ike did a great job of learning that there are secondary ways to win. If you get beat initially, that doesn't mean you have to lose. You just have to figure out how to correct and how to get back to where you're supposed to. And he did that. He had a really good awareness and knowledge of how to have a pass protection plan. We talk a lot about pass rush plan. There's a plan for protection too, man. And you have to know what to do on counters when you face a certain attack. And I think Ike's starting to finally get that. Another year with Joe Gilbert, another year learning all of these things together. I think it's to the moon for Ike. I think he takes another step, and I'll be very happy to see that. My dark horse here that didn't make it, guys, was going to be Jalen Coker, because I think when he's on the field, I think he's a top 10 player on this team as well.
Before we go to Bryson's list, and before we actually talk about your list quick, I just want to get to some of these chats. Zachary Hernandez, always with the super chats, coming in here. The crew survived the heat wave. Yes, we did. Been brutal this week working outside. My expectations are high for the wide receiver room, and Sanders will double his receptions, yards, and have close to 8 touchdowns. I love hearing that. That's beautiful. Zach. Andrew Silva, a longtime Spotify listener, first-time live listener. Andrew, we appreciate you coming in here. Y'all do the Lord's work out there for us, out of the state fans. Appreciate all the content. We appreciate you, Andrew. Thank you for tuning in tonight. And as I mentioned, I forgot to talk about the super chat. Do not be shy on that. We appreciate it. It's that little money icon on YouTube in the chat there. And we will, of course, toast you, and we'll answer any questions you guys have. And we are closing in. I just looked before we started. We're at 979 on the subscribers, so we're 21 away from 1,000. We are very, very close. So tell a friend, hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate it. Bryson,
I love that first-time live listener. Sorry to interrupt before you get to Bryson, but I love it when people say like it's their first time catching a live show, because I know when I watch podcasts or like a show or of any kind, man, being involved in the actual live and being in the comment section and like speaking through it and being a part of the show is so much more enjoyable. Don't get me wrong, man. I love listening to it on my own free time, but when I can catch like people that I really enjoy, it is awesome. So Andrew Silva, man, thank you for being in here tonight.
Bryson, before you jump to your list, anything surprise or jump out to you from Rickie's list, or it's pretty status quo?
Yeah, I mean, Ricky made a comment. I don't know how you can't have Adam Thielen on their top 10, and we'll get to my list. And
about to find out, huh?
Unfortunately, he's not on my top 10. I can completely understand as to why he's on the top 10 when you talk about consistency and just that rapport he has with Bryce Young, or as Curtis likes to say, rapport with Bryce Young. But,
he's got a good Ian going on with him.
Ian's on my mind.
He's unfortunately not on my top 10.
Ricky, oh, do I got to get to his list here? I'm sorry. I thought, here we go. All right, Bryson, fire
Either
away.
one of us could do it. We're both capable adults.
Yeah, I don't have access to that stuff, so unfortunately I can't. Same top two as Ricky here. I did include a rookie. I didn't follow the rules, I guess, but I feel like he deserves to make the list, even though he hasn't played it down in the NFL, just based off of my own personal belief in him. So top 1 and 2, same as Ricky, Derek Brown and J.C. Horn. I too struggled in what order I was going to put them in, Ricky. So that wasn't just you.
Cool. I like to hear that.
I do think Derek Brown is probably a higher graded player at his position than J.C. Horn is at this point. But if J.C. Horn puts together another season like he did last year, then we're going to be talking about him as a top 2, 3, 4 corner in this league. Just has to prove that he's going to be available and on the field. Of course, Derek Brown, you mentioned it, man. This team missed him dearly last year, not only from his play on the field, but his leadership in the locker room. He's getting him back is like the best free agent signing you can have. Even though, he wasn't a free agent, but like just bringing him back into the lineup for that defense is going to do wonders and hopefully improve it a lot from last season. At 3, I had Bryce Young. I'm high on him too, just like Ricky. I believe that he is going to take that step this season. We saw it at the end of last year, the progress that he's made. And, I mentioned a couple weeks ago, if he can get through what he went through last season, I mean, the sky is the limit for Bryce Young, and only adding weapons and that continued tutelage of the head coach and the offensive line and just everybody building rapport together. I think it's just the sky's the limit for Bryce Young. So him at 3 for me. Robert Hunt at 4. I do think he's one of the best guards in the NFL. Ricky mentioned some of the other reasoning being that he sets the tone on the offensive line. A great locker room dude. I mean, from all that we can see as fans with the Panthers social media, including him in a lot of things, seems like just a funny dude and just someone that likes to be involved with the fan base and in other players' lives. So not only an elite guard, but a really good dude as well. Then Chuba, I'm all on record about how hard I was on him and not wanting him on my team, and now he's one of the best offensive players on this team without a doubt. Last season, just leaving it all on the field every game. This dude, like, what game was it? I can't remember exactly. The one where he fumbled in overtime and, just was so down on himself, and then like comes out the next week and just has like a crazy game. Like, this dude wants to win so bad, and like you can see it in his dedication, staying after practices on the jugs machine, like being the last one to leave the field. Like, he just wants to get better day after day, and I think last season showed that, and I can only hope that it's going to continue to do that, year in and year out. Then the newcomer Trayvon Merrick, I do think that he adds something to that safety room we haven't had in a very long time. Consistency, ability to play the run, ability to play the pass. I think he's versatile in both of those areas, and I do think that he is going to bring a lot to that secondary unit. Opposite of or behind J.C. Horn, and then with Mike Jackson back there, and then the question mark maybe beside of him, but they may bring in someone. It may be Damani Richardson. We don't know at this point, but I think Merrick is going to hold his own. Then I have Damian Lewis, the other guard. I wholeheartedly agree with Ricky. I think that he had one of his best seasons in the NFL last year, consistently. Another dude that plays with like an attitude. He is not someone I would want to line up against and try to sack his quarterback. He is just nasty on that offensive line and helps set that tone with Robert Hunt. And then for me, just the consistency with Taylor Moton. He is declining in age, but year in and year out, I mean, he's been here through the bad times and hopefully the good times in this season and forward. He's just been consistent. We haven't had a question at right tackle in a very long time because of that man at number 8, and I'm appreciative of that. And his play really hasn't fallen off. It's really just can he continue to stay healthy and stay on the field. And then I had to put my guy in here, man, Josie Jewell. I know Ricky's probably like throwing up over there, but
I just want to know, do you believe it, or is it I got to do it for my guy? I got to put on, I got to show up, or do you believe it? I got to know.
He believes it. Don't let him.
I
fool
believe
you.
it. I really do. I think last season, just hear me out. Like last season when he wasn't on the field, and albeit the defense was missing a lot of players when he wasn't on the field, not to include him or to include him. But there was a clear difference. The way the defense operated, the juice on that defense when Josie Jewell wasn't on the field versus when he was. So I think that he brings that, not saying he's Frankie Louvu, but that Frankie Louvu energy to a linebacking room that needs it desperately. And he's clearly the best linebacker on this team. And I think that hopefully with another year under his belt, I know he's previously played under Evero, but another year under his belt in this locker room, under Evero's system again, I think hopefully his play continues to improve and he can stay healthy and stay on the field. So I think just from an energy aspect, he deserves some respect. And I do like him a lot. So I put him there at 9.
Once you get done with your Ted McMillan, let's come back and talk about Josie together.
Yeah, I'm curious.
And then, of course, at 10, my boy, I broke the rules. I threw him in here. He hasn't played a down in the NFL, but he's going to be that dude. He is the guy for Carolina. Drafted top 10 this year. He's going to make a difference on the field. He's going to be Bryce Young's go-to. He's going to make plays that fans are just going to, their jaw's going to drop because this is the kind of talent that he is, the kind of talent that he has. So I fully expect him to move way up this list probably by the end of the year. I think that we finally have a true number 1 wide receiver in Carolina again for I don't know how long that we haven't had one, but T-Mac is going to move up this list.
Just shout out Charlie quick before we get to the Josie Jewell stuff. Listen to the pod every day. Love it, Charlie. Love everyone tuning in. We appreciate it. Again, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't. Ricky, fire away with Josie Jewell.
So I'm not mad at the inclusion because I also I agree with you that the defense was flatter when Josie was not on the field. And for me, I think that I look at it in twofold, Bryson. I look at it as it was because we were asking Trevin Wallace, or a third-round rookie who was not ready, to be the green dot linebacker and communicate that defense to the rest of those players. And I think that was a troublesome situation last season. But I also think that Josie does have juice. I don't disagree that he's got a little bit of energy to him. What I wanted to ask you, Bryson, this is what I was like when I was going through these players, right? If we end this season and Josie Jewell is still our best linebacker and he has the same type of season that he had last season, right? I'm not talking about taking another step, but if he is the best out of him, Trevin Wallace, and Christian Roseboom, is that a good thing?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, he is going to be the best out of those 3 because there's not
a good thing
that there's not that much competition behind him, unfortunately.
Wow. Why do you hate Trevin Wallace? You remember when you guys always say I hate Sean Smith-Wade? Why do you hate Trevin Wallace, man?
I don't hate him. I just think he needs a couple more seasons. I mean, we saw his lack of not ability, but just he needs to be comfortable in this extensive, comprehensive scheme. And I think Trevin Wallace has traits to be a good linebacker in the NFL, but I just think he needs more than one season to really start making that difference. But this linebacking room is not the best. I'm not going to sit here and say, if we drafted a linebacker in the first round this year, would Josie Jewell be the best linebacker on this team? No. But if Frankie Louvu was still on the team, would Josie Jewell be the best linebacker on this team? No. But he is the best linebacker on this team. And I do think that not only his ability on the field, which isn't perfect, right? He's not great in coverage. He could get stuck behind offensive linemen in the run game sometimes. But I think for a defense that's lacking at the linebacker position, when he's on the field, he makes a difference more than anyone else in that room. So
I like it, man.
I thought he was talking back his statement there for a second, taking shots at Josie. But I want to say something quick on this conversation. I was pleasantly surprised, I will say that, with Josie Jewell's play this past year. However, a big however, him being the best linebacker in the room is just not saying much right now. And you kind of made that point. I think Trevin Wallace is a work in progress, played way too early last year. And then we got Rose Boom, who was a special teams ace and kind of had a bunch of tackles last year. I don't know if he can replicate that. So this room, I think, is, and we'll talk about it in a couple of weeks, is pretty damn thin, honestly.
I feel like Josie is a good football player. Like, it's not that I want you to think that like I dislike him entirely, Bryson, because that's definitely not how I feel about him. I feel like I would be much more comfortable and confident about our defense if he was our second best linebacker. And because I don't think that Josie Jewell, and this is no offense to him, but I don't think that he has a alpha athleticism or an alpha mentality as a linebacker. And I think that when you talk about, and I'm not one of those people that throws around like, oh, alpha, you got to be an alpha. Sometimes that's such a stupid, overblown, macho bullshit thing to say, in my opinion. But there is a mindset for that position, in my opinion, that when you see the greats, right, they have this, I know what's going to happen and I know how to wreck it. Like, they have that mentality. I don't think Josie has that. I think Josie's like, hey, man, I'm a fundamentally sound guy and I can get to where I'm supposed to be in a reasonable amount of time, right? Like, he's a very good four-door sedan with good safety ratings, right? But I want a fucking Maserati with a steel toe on the front of it, right? Like, I want speed everywhere and I want it to break doors. Like, that's what I'm looking for, you know?
Your fucking analogies.
Sure.
I love it.
He's a Tim Duncan, and you want like a Kobe Bryant at the position.
Did you just call Josie Jewell Tim Duncan one of the greatest players to ever play? I think Josie Jewell is like Al Jefferson. He can put you in a clown suit down low in the paint. He's got good feet. He's got good fundamentals. But who remembers Al Jefferson?
Charlotte Hornets fans.
Yeah, but only because we have no other choice. Like, it's between him and Sean Mays for our best big man, probably.
Well, the reason I went with Tim Duncan was the fundamentally sound part. You know,
I hear you, and that makes sense. Yeah,
he's the first player that comes to mind. You know, he's not going to wow you athletically,
No doubt.
but he's going to spin on you and bank it off the glass down low and do it every single time, and then not talk shit.
Yeah, I'm out on basketball references. I'm sorry, y'all. All right, let's go to my top 10. I ain't going to spend as much time because you guys heard half this shit already. So,
what up,
Derek Brown, I didn't really dabble. I didn't really have trouble with this one, to be honest with you guys. I thought Derek Brown is the sole number one best player on this team. J.C. Horn second. Even with the injury, I just think we saw last year the impact Derek Brown has when he's out. So that was it for me. I was honestly surprised by your guys' Robert Hunt and where you put him. Based off of the season he had last year at that guard position across the league, had I would say, arguably maybe his best year, made the Pro Bowl. And you guys, I think, did Bryson had him 4, and Ricky, did you have him 5? Did I have that right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, arguably,
so
I know.
You think it's crazy that we had him at 4 and 5?
Well, yeah, I think it was a disservice to him. He made the Pro Bowl and was outstanding at his position, and honestly had one of the biggest impacts on this offense. Over
you think he had
Bryce
a better
Young,
season? You think he had a better
over
season
Bryce Young and over Chuba Hubbard?
Oof.
Absolutely.
Oof.
And I think you had both of those guys over him. So
I sure did.
So yeah, I think Robert Hunt deserves the 3, and I think it's disservice to him. Taylor Moton, this one I know I'm going to probably get shit for, but I just think this guy has been a rock on that right side for as long as I can remember, and has just been consistent across the board. I get the health concerns, and he's taking days off and gets all these vet days, but I still think he's a really good right tackle in the NFL. And even when he is out, I still think there's an impact on that offensive line, even in some of the games last year when he was, replaced when he was injured, I think by Yoshi and some of the other guys that replaced him. So I've always been a big Yoshi. I've always been a big Taylor Moton guy. So Bryce Young is 5 for me. I think if I had a projection, if this was like a top 10 projection, I'd probably put Bryce Young higher because I think he's going to have a hell of a season. But just based off of last year and where he is at currently, I put him at 5. I know you guys had him a little bit higher, but I would have probably put him 4 as the highest I would have went if I was going back and forth on that. Chuba at 6. I thought about putting him at 4 and then Bryce and then Taylor. I do think Chuba had a really good season. I do think it was also in part because of the offensive line and how well they played. So that doesn't slight him. I think he still had a hell of a season, and I really like him as a player. So that's kind of where I put him at 6. Like you guys, Bryson didn't have him there. I don't know how you can't put Adam Thielen in the top 10. Like he needs to be in there. I'm sorry. I don't care if you think he's old and this is his last year in the NFL. He is one of the best players on the Panthers roster, whether you like him or not. I know people are going to say he should be cut and let these young guys go, but he is old reliable. If you listen to what Cooper DeJean or whatever the fuck you want to pronounce, since we're all going to make fun of everything I say tonight, what he said when he went against Adam Thielen was he was one of the hardest players I went against. So I think that just speaks volumes to the impact Adam Thielen has on defenses. So I had a hard time putting him any lower in this ranking. Merrick, you guys talked about it. I think he's one hell of a safety, and I think Carolina is one of their best free agent signings of this offseason, and I think he's going to have a huge impact, and he's going to be a chess piece. I think they're going to move him all around, to be totally honest with you guys, and going to give Evero, almost like a Joker piece to this defense that I think is missing. So I think he's going to have a pretty damn big year for them. Damian Lewis, he did have a really solid year. You're right. He probably did have his best year statistically. And my biggest concern going into this past year was, could he stay healthy and could he limit his penalties? And honestly, for the most part, he did. Shockingly, I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect that. Like, I thought when they signed him, I was like, okay, this is kind of like a lower tier signing based off of his history in Seattle. But he did show up. But I also think in part the offensive line as a whole was a product of that as well. So I think the offensive line helped him, the guys around him. But I also do think he is a big reason why Icky had a decent year. I think he played a big part in that.
I think they played a big part in each other's good years, honestly.
So Lewis at 9, and then I'll be honest with y'all, I struggled with 10. I had, God, who the fuck did I have in there? I was dabbling with Wanham. I was dabbling with Ashawn Robinson because I thought he had a hell of a season last year. I really did. But I know he's getting up there in age, and I think his role is going to start to become a little bit more limited this season. So I went with Wanham just over the course of his play last year. I know he was injured, but he played 8 games, had 4 sacks. I think he had a fumble in there. If you took that across an entire season, you're looking at probably 7 to 8 sacks on the year, which is really solid. And they're expecting big things out of them this year, obviously with the Clowney cut. So I do think Wanham, off of the limited reps he got last year, I do think, for me at least, he cracked the top 10. But again, like I said, I struggle with this. I didn't even know. I was like, I don't know if there's really anyone worthy of this spot. There's so many mediocre guys on this team, and that's kind of how I felt. Like I didn't know who to slot here.
Well, and I think that the chat brings up a good name here, and Jared had him on his top 10,
yes,
right?
I wanted to talk about
Kirk
him.
Wharton.
My question to you guys is, out of all the offseason signings, besides Merrig, how the hell didn't any of us have anyone else?
Well, I was thinking one of my honorable mentions would have been Bobby Brown.
Same. Bobby was probably like my 12, honestly.
I think he's going to be a difference maker for this team, bringing him in. And then, honestly, I think if Jadeveon Clowney was still on the team, he probably would have been in my top 10 as well from the season that he had. So that kind of subtracted one, probably was able to slide in Josie Jewell on my own behalf there. And then, I think Bobby Brown could really come in and really make a difference on that defensive line.
Yeah, I love Bobby Brown. I think that he's going to be tremendous. But you know what I found really interesting when looking at Bobby Brown and contemplating adding him to my top 10, right? Because it was Icky, Turk Wharton, Bobby Brown was like the 3 that I was kind of messing around with, and Jalen Coker. Those are the 4 that were competing for my top 10 positions at that number 10 spot. But the thing about Bobby Brown that's really interesting, and I don't say this to downplay him or to diminish him, because I think I'm probably higher on Bobby Brown than most people I have seen talk about Bobby Brown. I am a very big fan of his. When we signed him, he was my favorite signing on free agency outside of Trayvon Merrick. But he had like something around 30 tackles last season as a run-stopping defender, right? You got to appreciate the hell out of Derek Brown going for 100 tackles the year before his injury. When you look at someone like Bobby Brown who could be effective, and yeah, he was rotational. He didn't play as much as Derek Brown, but 100 tackles as an interior defensive lineman is bonkers. So like when we were sitting here and we were talking about Derek Brown and JC Horn, I was like, eventually I ended up on Derek. It was because of stuff like that, man. It's these gaudy, like, what are you saying type of statistics. But shout out chat for talking about Turk Wharton, because I think that there's an avenue for Turk to really carve out like a top 10 role here. But what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to prove that even if he still is just used in platoon usage, can he make a difference every time he's out on the field and not just in spurts? That's how I feel about DJ Wanham. I thought that DJ Wanham was effective in spurts. I didn't think that DJ Wanham was a problem every time he was on the field in run defense and as a pass rusher. That's kind of what I needed to see out of someone to make that top 10, is I wanted consistency, and I wanted, like, I know each game I'm going to get a really quality football player. Not that Turk and DJ aren't quality football players, but you want to see them excel. You want to see them really open it up, right? So that's where I was with that. But, yeah, I think Jalen Coker also, man, that's got a conversation that's crazy, and we can get into that because we're talking about the receivers tonight, so we can talk about that tonight. But the fact that he was closer to me for my top 10 than Xavier Legette, it hurt my feelings a little bit, man, when I was thinking about that, to be honest, that our first round pick didn't cross my mind the way that our undrafted free agent who played even less games. But when he's out there, man, Jalen Coker has a chance to really make some shine this year, I think.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I was kind of saddened that Legette wasn't in the conversation for me either, to be honest with you. I'm like, damn, like he's a first round, and yeah. you think at this moment he would be at that point. Wharton is just not there for me yet. That was one of the signings I thought they overpaid a ton on. And I think he has a lot to prove, and I'm kind of waiting to see with him. That's just my opinion on him. I think he was a product of his environment a lot, and I want to see what he can do. And he will have big help if Derek Brown can stay healthy all year. But I have an issue with that. So
shout out Joko for this comment right here, because I was almost about to say the same thing about, like, one thing you can never question about Turk is if he hit leg day, because that dude is just gigantic on his lower half legs, man. I don't know if y'all have seen like his workout videos and like pictures of him, but his quads and shit are just like outrageous, man. It is crazy. I know that was probably that was a segment that I don't want edited and put into a clip. Don't do that, Curtis. Don't
All right, well,
bush apple.